Good morning, everyone. Bright and early, getting our day started with Harrison Burton, driver of the number 21 Motorcraft Quick Lane Ford Mustang in the NASCAR Cup Series, coming off a season-best 14th place finish at Darlington. If you've got a question for Harrison, raise your hand. We'll get to as many questions as we have. We have a good group here. So, Harrison, appreciate you joining us. Let's get you started with Bob Pockris. Okay, go ahead, Bob. Get us started.
Hey, good morning, Harrison. I'm curious, a lot of talk after the Logano Byron thing is like, oh, kids see that and they kind of learn how to race. And I'm curious, as a young driver, do you kind of know like how far you're willing to go? Or like when you see things like that, does that make you, will that influence maybe how you react to things in the future? Or do you feel like guys like your age already kind of have their standard and it's not necessarily going to be influenced by the way things happen on the track with other people?
I would say that a lot of people probably, you have your mindset about how you race kind of made up. It's a personal thing. And I think for me, it is definitely predicated on how I've been raced by that person or how I've been raced by people around me. Think about the Clash last chance race I was in. It turned into, I took the lead, got crashed, I spun out and kind of all kinds of stuff, just kind of got ping pong balled there. And so in that race, my aggression level was turned up really high, started kind of laying the bumper to people because I felt like I had been wronged in that race multiple times. And so then I got more aggressive and, kind of matched that level. And obviously I think in the Joey and William thing, I think Joey feels that, he got put in the wall beforehand and that changed how he would race. And then William probably sees it another way. So, every incident is pretty personal, I would say. And I don't think I let other people's racing kind of influence how I would race.
And considering the season that you've had, if you do get in a position where you are battling for the win and a win can potentially put you in the playoffs, how does that carrot of being in the playoffs maybe change? I don't want to say change, but how much is that an influence in how you would go about racing for the win? And again, especially so you haven't had the greatest of seasons.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's been a rough start to say the least. And, 14th place is our best finish. So that's not good. There's no hiding that. I think there's been some growing pains there. And I feel like now we're getting rolling in the right direction. So I'm excited to get back to the racetrack and hopefully be in that spot to try and contend for wins or just take it one step at a time and get some top 10s, get some top 5s and build there. But that does definitely change it. I think if I get in the spot where I'm racing for a win, I'm going to be pretty aggressive for multiple amount of reasons. Obviously, it would really change my whole life. I think it would be amazing for the Wood brothers to get their 100th win. So, I think there's some pressure to that kind of, especially with the start we've had, that if I do get there, I'm certainly going to be aggressive and go try and take it from those guys. And I think also, we saw at Darlington, it's hard to pass. It's really challenging to complete passes. I think the side-by-side racing has been good because the outside guy can't really get you too loose anymore. So you can go side-by-side, but it's really hard to complete passes. So, if you get a chance to make a pass, you better take it.
All right. Thanks, Bob. Let's go to Kelly. Hello, Kelly.
Good morning. Hey, Harrison. So you said there, obviously 14th is best finish this season. You've talked before about it being a rough start, but can you look at it as maybe a small victory? Do you find any, like you said, is it one of those things where it's like, okay, we're going in the right direction? So I'm not saying you celebrate it and high five and all that, but would you look at it as a small victory?
Absolutely. Yeah. And more than the finish, I think the speed we had in that race. There was just a part of that race where we came out, had a pit stop, and had been really not very good to start the race. And then the car woke up. We made the right changes on pit road and Joey and Denny, I think, were second or third. And I ran them down. I caught them. I think Joey had 1 lap older tires, so pretty even to him there. And I caught them. And I was like, okay, now we're rolling. So looking at the lap time data, that was our strongest race for sure compared to the leaders. In that particular segment, we matched the leaders' lap time. So it's like, okay, we're going in the right direction there. We have the speed at times to be a top 5 car. We just have to go and execute a whole race now. We had one segment where we kind of were really good and then tuned ourselves out of it some. So, I think, that was a big victory, I think, was to run with those guys, catch Denny, catch Joey. Obviously, I was in a different track position scenario where I was racing with Brad for the lucky dog. And, but to be able to catch them and show that we had that speed was the biggest victory of that day. And then the finish was actually probably worse than what we had, for lap time wise, was not probably representative of our best runs. We had the flat spotted tires after the big crash, had to pit and lose some track position there. And so, so that was, the finish number is not that exciting, but I think the speed we had was more exciting.
What about how you feel behind the wheel? Do you feel like you're getting better at knowing what you're looking for in the car, as well as maybe limiting any mistakes you've been making?
Yeah. I told my crew chief, Brian, like when we ran that run I was talking about earlier, that was the most like, okay, I feel comfortable. That's like the first time where I wasn't, uncomfortable in this race car, which is pretty wild when you think about it. I mean, this is a hard race car to drive, which is great for our sport, I think. But when you hit it right, it drives really well. So, we had some notes to build off of now, things that I like, especially based off of that run, some changes that I like, and hopefully that can carry over. It was, for me, it was like, oh my gosh, I can finally go be aggressive in this car. And I hadn't felt that yet. And now I kind of feel like we'll be able to replicate that and go get after it more.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Kelly. Let's go to Zach Sterniolo. Zach, go ahead. You're up.
Morning, Harrison. Thanks for taking the time here. First, I want to start with kind of going off of Kelly's question there. What have you learned about yourself as a driver? Running where you've been running is a lot different than where you were running in trucks and Xfinity these last few years. What kind of things have you learned about yourself as a race car driver when you are in so much traffic?
I think the biggest thing I've learned is that I won't quit. Like, there's nothing that I will never quit. So that's I think some of the good things about this start is, you build confidence in your work ethic. You build confidence in your desire. When things are bad, that's when you find out who you are, right? You go through adversity in life, and everyone has it, and feel like it makes you better. It's just something that for me is exciting that, I've gone through this rough spot, been in some really hard moments, been in, things that were really disappointing, leave the racetrack with your head hanging low. And then Monday morning rolls around and I'm as excited and motivated as ever to go to work and work harder than I ever have. And the schedule is as hard as it's ever been for me personally. The Cup schedule is pretty grueling. So I'm learning a lot about myself in a work ethic capacity. My love for the sport is, higher than I think it's ever been, because I appreciate, what Cup is all about. I'm getting ready to, try and hopefully start succeeding in that. And that's exciting. So, I like to take those things out of it. And I think that's what's really going to help me grow in the future is, I can never guarantee results, but I can guarantee what I will do before the race to try and be ready. And our whole team is as dedicated as ever to being good. And we know that means work. We can't do what we've been doing and expect to go just pop off a win. We have to go to work, and that's what we've been doing, and I'm really proud of that.
And then you look at this first third of the season and how diverse the schedule has been. In what ways has that been a benefit for you to hit all these different racetracks already? And then you look at these next 3 races, including the AllStar weekend, and you're at 3.5-mile racetracks. How has it helped being on so many different racetracks at the start, and now to have kind of 3 weeks of similar track types, how can that be a benefit for the team as well?
I think it's really beneficial to get all these different track types kind of not out of the way, but you get a notebook on every single type of racetrack, right? And now we're going to places that you could relate to other places. And when we first started with the car, it was Daytona, California, Vegas, Phoenix, all different tracks. And every time we went there, it was kind of a guess. And now we've hit a lot of tracks that, quite frankly, I think race teams are worried about. We were really worried about Dover being really hard to kind of get the setup right. And I think it was for some guys, I think us included. I crashed in lap 2 of practice. So I guess some of those fears were right, but then we got through it and got better throughout the weekend. So so the diversity of the schedule early has been, I think, good for the fans because they get to see a lot of different things and see how the next gen car performs. And it's been really good for the teams because now we have a notebook of kind of every kind of racetrack that you could think of. And we can go try and build off of that and show up off the truck closer than what we had been in the past.
Thanks.
Unmute myself. Zach, thank you. Let's go to Mitchell Brewer. Go ahead, Mitchell.
Harrison, what do you think is the biggest positive? I know there's been a lot of emphasis on your rough start, but what would you say a positive takeaway is from this early part of the season?
I think just the growth and me as a driver and our race team as a whole. It was kind of our first or full year in cups at our jobs, right? My crew chief, Brian, had been a race engineer in cup before, but hadn't crew chiefed. I have never raced in cup, obviously. Our race engineer was, on the 22 Xfinity car. So I think those first few weeks were pretty eye-opening for us about what was so different about Cup from Xfinity. And then you look at us now and we feel like we're in a rhythm of, we know our jobs, we know what we're responsible for, we know what the other person is kind of thinking before they say it now. And so that's really good. And so as a team, I think we've really grown. And then the biggest positive for me has just been getting to know, the Wood family and learning about their history and trying to represent them well has been really cool. Something I'll always remember is their support in us and belief in us as a group has never wavered. And same with our relationship with the Penske organization as a alliance team. That group has been really helpful for us and believes in us. So it's really cool to go to work and have people that believe in you, right? And especially when you have a bad day, to have a group that believes in you. So we've learned a lot about each other, and we know that our bosses kind of have our back, which is really cool.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Mitchell. Let's go back to Bob. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Harrison, the AllStar is next week, and I'm curious, having grown up in Charlotte, did you have any, I know a lot of people feel like it should move around, but I'm just curious, like if you just kind of feel like Charlotte was always a natural place for it, and then how do you look at, Texas and going all the way out there for maybe 40 or 50 laps?
Yeah, it's it's definitely a hike. I think the fans in Texas are really awesome, so that's fun to go see them. And I agree that it should move around. I like that idea. Charlotte was always really neat for me because I could leave school and then I'd go watch my dad qualify for the AllStar race, and I think it was like 5 o'clock on a Thursday, and just stuff like that was neat as a kid growing up. I enjoyed that. So I'm always kind of partial to Charlotte. But I think moving it around is really cool for the fans of each racetrack, right? You see other sports kind of do that where the All-Star game will be here, then there, and kind of all over. The NBA had one in Charlotte too recently. So just kind of rolling around and doing different things, I think is cool. And I'm enjoying that idea. But, we'll see. I think Texas has been a pretty good spot for it too, with the fan base that's out there.
And do you, as far as the next gen, I'm curious if you've had any, do you feel like, are you guys doing any sort of, I guess for lack of a better term, experimenting, as far as for Penske? Do you feel like, and especially considering where you are in points, you're like, hey, yeah, give me can't get any worse, right? So give me like the piece or the setup that you just don't know if it's going to work, and we'll see if it does.
Yeah, we've done some of that, and our group is learning what kind of I like. And we're still trying to build kind of as a group. So a lot of times every weekend is kind of an experiment, but we've had, we've differed on some things that worked and didn't work. And I wouldn't say we're full experimental mode, just kind of swinging for the fences. I still think that we're trying to build off our notes that we're learning and trying to just learn about the car and learn about what I like and what car. And so, yeah, the whole, throwing caution to the wind thing is probably not our position quite yet. There's still a lot of season left, and we feel like we can get things rolling in the right direction. Just kind of taking the steps that we are. And I think Darlington was a big swing for that direction. We had some changes that, in our setup that I thought was really positive, and kind of came to light in the race that I thought was, better than what we had performed. So, we'll try and build off that and get better and better.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Bob. Let's go back to Zach. Go ahead, Zach.
Harrison, is there any one or number of people that you've been kind of relying on for feedback throughout these first 12 races, trying to find your footing in the series? Are you talking with guys like Joey and Ryan to pick their brain about things? Who have you been able to lean on and talk to throughout these first 12?
Yeah, certainly Joey and Ryan have been really helpful. Both guys have kind of been through everything you could think of. I think back to when Joey started in Cup. I think his experience has kind of, been of one where he struggled out of the gate and then turned into, one of the best to do it. Right. So that's, I think motivating for me to have a guy that, hey, let's be honest, I struggled out of the gate. Right. And Joey, I think he would say that he did too. And then now he's a champion and a guy that, when you think of the most talented drivers, he's pretty high up on that list. So, that's pretty awesome to see that and learn from his experiences and try and understand that, it's possible to turn this thing around. It's not inevitable that it'll turn around. You have to earn it turning around. And I think that's been something I've learned and something that's cool for me. And then obviously my dad, just lean on him a lot. He's a experienced guy, been through it all as well. And obviously I have a great relationship with him. So it's good to learn from him for sure.
Thank you.